Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, she has made a statement now on what it is that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, their rivalry, has done for the WNBA. Now, as far as actually playing on the court, as far as player versus player in that comparison, I think anybody with half a brain knows there is no rivalry there.
You're now tuning into Dunk Dynasty, where the truth on sports is always delivered unfiltered and with no holds barred. Today's spotlight shines on the WNBA, more specifically on Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, who has made recent comments about the impact of the so-called rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. From a competitive standpoint, the reality is simple. There isn't a real rivalry in terms of performance or achievements between the two. Anyone who watches the games or understands basketball at even a surface level can see that Caitlin Clark plays on an entirely different level. Last season, the Indiana Fever went 3-1 against the Chicago Sky, which should tell you where the competitive edge lies. Yet, the media continues to cling to the narrative of a heated rivalry, spurred more by off-court drama and social media attention than by anything that has actually occurred in competition. Let's not forget the iconic and now infamous "You Can't See Me" taunt from Angel Reese directed at Caitlin Clark, an action that many viewed as disrespectful, regardless of the supposed playful intent behind it. Add to that the whole Kennedy Carter incident, where Angel Reese was seen celebrating an overly aggressive move on Clark that bordered on unsportsmanlike conduct. Some even referred to it as a clothesline from hell, suggesting it was worse than anything Carter had done during the game. Despite all of this, Engelbert, in her role as commissioner, has now come forward to state that this rivalry is in fact beneficial to the league. Her recent statements attempt to elevate the significance of this ongoing tension by pointing out the increased media attention, revenue, and overall visibility the league has gained since this storyline took root. But the fact remains, without Clark, these games don't draw nearly the same kind of viewership, and the numbers back that up. Reese's games without Clark simply do not move the needle in terms of ratings or excitement. So while Engelbert is positioning this rivalry as a catalyst for the league's growth, one has to ask, is this narrative being force-fed to the audience just to generate buzz, or is there actual substance behind it?
Caitlin Clark. But nonetheless, the commissioner has made this statement about basically how good it is that this rivalry is a thing. And the fact that really before it happened, the league was not getting noticed. And that bared out in the revenue generated, lack of a real media rights deal that paid any money.
Commissioner Cathy Engelbert recently spoke on the David Rubenstein Show, addressing the rise in popularity of the WNBA and attributing much of it to the growing spotlight surrounding players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Since taking over the WNBA in 2019, Engelbert has made it her mission to elevate the league's profile, and for the first time in years, there appears to be significant traction. But the question that arises is whether this growth is authentic or inflated by media-manufactured drama. Engelbert's acknowledgement of the rivalry between Clark and Reese as a powerful driver for the league's momentum is, in many ways, an admission that the WNBA has lacked true star power and compelling narratives in recent years. In her own words, Engelbert outlined the three core elements that draw people to sports: rivalries, games of consequence, and household names. Her frank admission that the league previously lacked household names highlights a long-standing issue with marketing and audience engagement. Though the WNBA has featured many talented athletes, very few have managed to break into mainstream recognition. Clark's arrival has changed that, as her college career made her a household name before she even stepped on a WNBA court. Her popularity has brought massive viewership to Indiana Fever games, with ticket prices skyrocketing to as much as $3,400 in some matchups. The buzz isn't just about basketball, it's about personality, presence, and public perception. Angel Reese, while talented, does not command the same kind of attention unless she's paired with Clark. Engelbert's attempt to promote the rivalry as a two-sided affair fails to recognize this imbalance. If anything, it's Clark's star power that's pulling Reese into the spotlight. The commissioner's praise for the rivalry must be seen in context, not as a sign of healthy competition between equally matched players, but as a media construct that's being used as a tool for visibility, even if the competitive reality tells a different story. Still, Engelbert's comments also touch on a deeper issue: the complications that arise when high-profile athletes, especially women, are placed under the scrutiny of social media and public debate.
Well, let's just stop right there for a second. Caitlin Clark games, all of her games, have big ratings. Angel Reese's games don't have big ratings when Caitlin Clark's not involved. So while the commissioner is going to talk up this rivalry, which, again, at least from a player versus player standpoint, isn't even close, and really from a team versus team standpoint, it isn't even close.
During her appearance, Engelbert also took a moment to address the darker side of increased attention in women's sports, particularly the vitriol that often surfaces online. She pointed out how the rise of rivalries and spotlight moments can also bring out misogyny, racism, and homophobia in public commentary, especially on social media platforms. She stated that the WNBA strongly condemns these forms of hate, which have no place in the sport. That's a noble sentiment, but one that requires further nuance. While it's important to call out genuine bigotry, it's equally important to recognize that criticism is not inherently hateful. Far too often, valid criticism of players or the league is dismissed or mislabeled as hate speech simply because it challenges the prevailing narrative. Take, for example, the public's reaction to the over-the-top physicality in games involving the Sky and Fever. Many fans voiced concerns about the lack of sportsmanship, and the excessive roughness, particularly in those high-profile games, led to widespread commentary. That isn't racism or misogyny. It's an honest critique of what fans see as a threat to the game's integrity. It's unfortunate that conversations around women's sports often get derailed by bad faith arguments on both sides. Engelbert's focus on combating toxic behavior is valid, but so is the need for open dialogue that doesn't shut down dissent. In many ways, the WNBA is at a crossroads. It wants to grow, attract new fans, and expand its audience, but it can't do that while insulating itself from critique. Fans are going to weigh in, especially when there's an obvious disparity between media narratives and on-court realities. If Angel Reese is portrayed as Caitlin Clark's equal in all aspects when the evidence doesn't support that, then pushback is inevitable. And labeling that pushback as hate only alienates the very audience the league is trying to court. The truth is, not every opinion is rooted in bigotry. Some of it is just sports talk, the same kind of passionate, unfiltered discourse that exists in men's sports every single day.
Quote, in women's sports, sometimes it's complicated by the social media vitriol, which we denounce, Engelbert continued. It's terrible what some of these players have endured, the hatred, the vitriol, the misogyny, the homophobia, the racism. There is no place in this sport. Still, the numbers speak volumes. We brought tens of millions of new people into our sport last year because this rivalry came out of college.
The commissioner's stance also opens up a broader discussion about how sports leagues define growth and success. According to Engelbert, the Clark-Reese rivalry has brought tens of millions of new fans into the WNBA, and that's not something to scoff at. The attention has undeniably increased, but once again, the question of sustainability lingers. Is the league truly growing, or is it experiencing a temporary spike due to one breakout star and a controversial storyline? The answer may lie in how other games and teams perform when Clark isn't involved. Thus far, those numbers have lagged significantly behind. The ticket prices for Fever games have been astronomical, and it's clear that Clark is the driving force behind that demand. Meanwhile, games not involving Clark haven't generated the same buzz, and in some cases, they've struggled to fill arenas. This suggests that the league's growth is currently tied to one player, and while that's a start, it's not a foundation. Engelbert's broader strategy should involve developing and promoting more stars while ensuring that rivalries are genuine and not media inventions. In sports, rivalries are born from repeated clashes between equals, iconic moments, shared history, and competitive balance. That's not what's happening here. This is a carryover from college, inflated by social media moments and overzealous coverage. The WNBA must be careful not to hinge its entire marketing approach on a rivalry that may not have legs beyond the initial hype. True rivalries have mutual respect and fierce competition on the court. Right now, the Clark-Reese dynamic feels lopsided in every measurable category: stats, leadership, fan support, and influence. A sustainable league needs more than just one rivalry. It needs a league-wide push for excellence and engagement. That includes improving game presentation, refining commentary, and making sure all teams receive fair exposure. Otherwise, it runs the risk of falling back into irrelevance once the novelty fades.
Of those games. Look, there's physical basketball games, and then there's whatever in the hell that was that we witnessed last year. And yeah, people went to social media, and they voiced their displeasure. The other thing, and we always got to go over this, Look, criticism is not racism. All right? Not giving an opinion that somebody doesn't like isn't hate. No, you just don't like my opinion.
In discussing the commissioner's comments and the overall state of the league, it's also worth highlighting the broader fan reaction, especially from longtime followers of the WNBA. Many veteran fans have taken issue with the influx of new, so-called casual fans, suggesting that they don't truly appreciate the nuances of the game or the legacy of its players. This gatekeeping attitude is not only misguided but counterproductive. Every successful league thrives on casual fans. The NBA, NFL, MLB, all of them rely heavily on people who don't watch every game, who might not know every player's stats, but who tune in for the big moments and trending matchups. That's what keeps the sport relevant in mainstream culture. The hardcore fans will always be there, but they alone can't sustain a league. Engelbert understands this dynamic and is trying to harness the power of high-visibility moments to bring more people into the fold. But in doing so, the league must also ensure that these new fans aren't pushed away by elitist attitudes or inconsistent messaging. For example, if a casual viewer tunes in because of Caitlin Clark and then witnesses what looks like unnecessarily aggressive play, they're going to voice their concerns. And if those concerns are dismissed as ignorance or hate, those fans won't stick around. The league must strike a balance between welcoming new voices and upholding the integrity of the sport. That includes ensuring that criticism, when delivered respectfully, is part of the conversation. This is how every sport evolves, by listening to its audience, adapting, and staying authentic. Engelbert's comments reflect an awareness of these issues, but the WNBA's next steps will be critical in determining whether this current wave of popularity becomes permanent or fades with time.
To make the league grow and to bring in, and this is the important part, because the old WNBA fandom loves to take victory laps on saying, well, those aren't real fans, they're not basketball fans, if they don't watch the whole league. Well, that's the thing about it is your league needs casual fans in order to survive. Sports leagues survive off of casual viewers, not the hardcore fan. The hardcore fan is going to watch no matter what.
At the heart of this entire conversation is the WNBA's ongoing struggle to define its identity and establish itself as a major force in the sports world. Cathy Engelbert, in recognizing the importance of rivalries and household names, has taken a step in the right direction. But the league still has a long way to go. Relying on a rivalry that isn't competitive in nature and is often marred by off-court drama is not a solid long-term strategy. Caitlin Clark is an undeniable superstar, and her impact on the game is already historic. Her ability to draw fans, boost ratings, and elevate the profile of her team is unmatched in the current landscape of women's basketball. Team Reese, while a compelling figure in her own right, does not bring the same level of consistency or performance. Yet the league continues to push this rivalry narrative in an attempt to create parity where there is none. This disservice to both players and fans creates unrealistic expectations and eventually leads to disappointment. A better approach would be to celebrate each player for who they are, highlight their individual strengths, and allow natural rivalries to develop over time based on actual competition. The WNBA must also work harder to support its entire roster of players, not just the ones involved in media-manufactured rivalries. Only then can it build a league that's truly competitive, diverse in storylines, and sustainable in growth. As it stands, Engelbert's comments shed light on the current marketing philosophy: build attention through controversy, lean into star-driven matchups, and combat backlash with broad statements against hate. It's a balancing act, and one that the league must master quickly if it hopes to convert this current attention into lasting success.